Right, so for today's class, we will look at a conditional statement, which is part of what we call control flow in programming. Don't worry about it. I will explain all those grammar that I'm saying. I'll explain them and then as usual, we are going to abandon this slide, not really abandon it, but basically we'll do most of the talking on VS Code, right? So any valid point, of course, I'll still jot it down there on VS Code, and every practical will be on VS Code. So for the purpose of viewing, so this is basically what we'll be doing in this particular class. Let me see if I can scroll down to this slide. So this is the outline and some basic, I think that's basically all for this slide, right? I think that is basically all for this slide. Okay, so that is basically what we'll be doing for this class. All right, so quickly, we will go to our VS Code and then we will start writing some code and doing some explanation all in VS Code, so we don't have to be shifting between slides and between our code editor. So in our previous class, I created a folder and I said that this folder will contain all our code for this particular camp, this particular bootcamp. So I open up that folder in my VS Code, and then I'll create a new file for this particular class. So I won't write in the previous file. So I'll simply just create a new file, but same within that folder. So we can have a collection of everything that we've done so far for this particular bootcamp. Right, so while my VS Code is coming up, so I believe that there's no one on this code that has not been graded and promoted. I don't think I'm not sure there should be anyone at all. Right, I'm not sure there should be anyone at all. Is there anyone on this code that has not been graded and promoted? Okay. All right, so the silence means that there is no one, right? So we will just continue from where we stopped in our last class, and for some reason my VS Code is taking time to boot up, which is not so. All right, so we are up and running. Right, we are up and running. So I'll create a new file, right? I'll create a new file, and in this file, I'll call this file conditional, right? I'll call this file conditional.py, conditional.py. Okay, and for arrangement's sake, right? For the purpose of arrangement, let's see if we can just rename this file to something like I'd probably add a number before its name so it could be arranged properly. So I'll put 1 here, and then I'll put this other one 2 here. So for the purpose of arrangement, right? This is strictly for the purpose of arrangement. So this file don't get arranged in alphabetical order, right? All right, conditionals. So in order for us to understand conditional properly, okay, we need to understand the term called control flow. So like I said, every valuable information, I'll still put it here in VS Code, right? So we don't have to be moving between our text editor and our slide, right? So everything will live here. So in order for us to understand conditional better, we need to understand what we call control flow in programming. And control flow is basically, right, or the order of execution, rather, the order of execution of our codes, of our program, rather, of our program. Okay, that's basically what a control flow is, right? It's basically the order of execution of our program. So like I always say, please forgive any typo error. And since this won't get interpreted by Python interpreter, so we are bound to make mistakes and we can likely not see it. So please, if there's any typo error there, please do well to correct it on your end. But try as much as I can to avoid every typo error. Right, so control flow is basically what the order of execution of our program. So before now, we know that if you have a print statement here, right? If you have a print statement, say hello world, right? Hello world, and then we have another print statement. I say I am an adult. I am an adult. And then we have another print statement saying I am not an adult, right? And then we have probably we may have let's say one input. Okay, we say an input that takes name, right? So I don't need to put this in. I don't need to typecast this, right? Since name is already what a string, so I could just simply just put the input there without typecasting it, right? So I just say enter enter your name, and then after all this, I would simply just finally just say print, and then I would say um, hello, and then put your name there. So I put an empty print here just for spacing sake, and put one empty print here just for spacing sake. All right, so order of execution works like this, right? Now, by default, if we execute this code, right, this code will do what? Will execute from line 5 all the way to line 11, right? Without skipping any line. Are you together? Are you together? Please let me understand that we are following, right? By default, if I should execute, if we should execute this code, right, this instruction will execute from line 5, right, all the way to line 11 without skipping any line, right? That's true, right? So that's basically what will happen if you should do what if we should run this code. So let's give this a try. So if I should execute this code, you see that we start with hello world up to a point where it says enter your name. Seeing this is an input function, it stays there. See what do you click on enter, then it moves to the next line, right? So if I should probably put a codecamp 5.0 as my name, and then I click on enter, we now say hello CodeCamp 5.0, and that ends the code. And that ends the code. Now this is fine, right? This is totally fine if basically you want your entire script to do what to execute from line 1 all the way to the last line. But there are certain situations where we intend to do what to control this flow of execution, right? And we can do that. One of the means which we can do that is by using conditionals. Now conditionals, I'll explain now. Now conditionals, right, is basically the ability for our program to make choices. Right? Now the ability for your program to do what? To execute a portion and not execute that other portion is basically what conditional is all about. And we will see how we can achieve this in Python. So let's take, for instance, you are in a situation, right, where someone offers you two choices, right? And he's like, okay, go to England. Let's say if you go to England, right, you are permitted to, let's say, play football, have some ice cream, and then probably go play some sport, probably play another kind of sport, or let's say swimming. Or you could rather stay in Nigeria, right, and do nothing. Okay, so it's now you say that in order to play football, have some ice cream, and maybe go for swimming, you have to be in England. Or for you to not do any of those things, you have to be in Nigeria. Now that's choice. Now you can only achieve those three things if you're in England, and or not achieve them if you're not in Nigeria. So now there is a means where we could replicate that same choice or that same ability of our program to do what? To choose, to do what? To execute this part and not execute that part. And that ability or that functionality or that concept, right, can be achieved using conditionals. Are we together? Question before we proceed. Question. All right, so the silence means no question. We are all following. All right, so take for instance this particular line of code here, where it says I'm an adult, and sentence saying I'm not an adult. Now let's assume that one is supposed to be an adult if their age is above certain age. Let's say from 18, right? Then you're supposed to be an adult, and then if you're from 18 below, Right, from 17 below, right, you should not be an adult. But without this concept of conditional, we have both information being displayed, right? I'm an adult, and at the same time I'm not an adult, and this could lead to so many confusion or complications in our code, and we do not want that. So to achieve conditional, or to achieve the concept of conditional, we use three keywords in Python. We have three keywords that we can use to do what, to achieve this concept of doing what, of branching. So one of the keyword is if. So because if is a keyword in Python, it means that I cannot do this. I cannot do this if equals to 10, right? I cannot do that. So this is one of the variable rules that we listed in our previous classes. We can use reserve word. If here is one of the reserve word in Python. So when Python sees if, it knows that you're about to construct a conditional statement, right? It knows that about to construct a conditional statement. So that is one of the keyword, and the other one is else, and the last one is Elif. So most of the time, this Elif comes before the else. It doesn't. The arrangement doesn't really matter. Okay, so the point is to understand how each of these words behaves, and then do what, use it appropriately. All right. So now let's look at if. Right. Let's take a look at if on its own. Let's take a look at if. Okay, so I'll comment on this out. So these are the three keywords that we use. So I'll put that down. Three keywords used to construct conditional statements, right? Conditional statements. So we have the if, we have the else, we have the elif. Right. So now let's look at if proper. Now let's look at if properly. Let's look at if on its own. So how exactly does if behave, or when Python sees if, what is it expecting, or how will it execute your code? Now if the way if behaves is that it only execute your code, your specified code, right? Because you have to specify which code is executing for this if, right? So it will only execute that your specified code, right? That your specified code, right? Only when a condition is true. Only when a condition is true. That is how if behave. So true here being what? Being a Boolean value, right? Being a Boolean value. So that portion of code that you intend to execute, if you construct it with the if statement, it will only execute that portion when this condition here is true. But then you may also be wondering what exactly is condition, because I believe that in every context, right? What matter in every context, right? So outside the context of programming, it can mean so many things. But since we are dealing with programming, right? Condition in this particular context of programming refers. So let me put that down quickly so we could actually reference it, right? So condition in programming, right? In programming refers to an expression. So an expression. So please note that I'm not saying it refers to a statement, an expression. So an expression is something that can be evaluated to a specific value. That is what an expression is. So it refers to an expression. So a typical example of an expression is something like this. So if I have something like, let's say 3 plus 3 minus 1, right? This is an expression, because at the end of the day, this whole thing will be evaluated to one single value, right? So this is an expression. This also can be an expression. Let's say 10 divided by 2. That's also an expression. But doing something like this, let's say a name equals to a CodeCamp. Please, this is a statement. This thing here is a statement, because this thing here would not evaluate to one single value, right? Are we together? So please, statement and expression are two different things, and I believe that I took the time to explain that. I think in our first class, in our second class, I think I shed some light to differentiate those two things, right? So back to conditionals, right? So condition are what in programming refers to an expression. So these are a typical example of how an expression looks like, right? That must evaluate to a Boolean value. So in the context, right? In the context of programming, right? Conditions are basically expression that must. So it's composed of that it must evaluate what to a Boolean value, being true or false. Now, if you now bring in this definition of condition down to where we have this condition here, so we could say that the if condition, right, or if statement rather, only execute your specified code if the expression, right, that is given, right, is evaluated to any of these Boolean value, which in this case is what the only Boolean value that we're interested in is the true value. Are we together? Did that make sense? Did that make sense? Question. Yes, I think yes, you can still get the slide. The slide will be available in due time. In due time. Right. So the silence means that we are all following. All right. So having these two things in mind, having these two definitions now in mind, now how do we construct? Right now, how do we construct this? So now it boils down to what to a syntax. So syntax is similar to how you speak someone's language. Okay, so it's similar to how you're speaking this language. There are rules, right? There are rules that are guiding us, right, to do what to speak appropriately. Same thing happens in programming languages. There are rules that must guide you to do what to construct your instructions appropriately, right? If not, you end up constructing something that Python cannot even interpret. So to construct an if statement, we use we initiate with if. So when Python sees if, it knows that what should follow should be your condition, which in this case what your expression that must evaluate to a Boolean value. So after that expression comes in there, then your colon follows. Now now you move to the next line. Now inside now you said that by default, if you are using VS Code, right? Well, I'm not sure for other editors, right? But if you are using VS Code, by default, it will automatically indent your cursor. So if you see where my cursor is now, if I click on enter, it indents it automatically. So in the indentation is 4 spaces, right? So or one tap. So it indents it automatically because it knows that what should follow are your specified code, right? Your specified code to be executed, right? So all those portion of code that you want to execute only when this condition is true will now come in as indentation. Now if you take it out, then it assumes that those code what is outside conditional statement. So as such, they will do what they will default to the normal flow of execution. But then if you indent them or if you shift it 4 spaces inside, it makes it the body or the section, right, that should be executed for this condition only when it is true. So it doesn't mean that code can only be one line. Of course, it can be multiple lines. It can be as many as possible. It can be very long, right? It can be very long. But then, no matter how long it is, they should do what they should be indented. The moment I push this man outside here, this man does not belong to that group of code again. So it means that if this thing is not true, Python will jump this whole execution and do what and execute this man. So this man here will default to the normal flow of execution, right? To make sure that this man belongs there, then he has to do what he has to go in. So you either tap it in or you use 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So indentation is 4 spaces or one tap, right? But by default, if you're using VS Code, your cursor will always be indented for you until you are done with that portion of code. Then you have to manually shift it out and start writing your other code. So that is the syntax of a conditional structure. So this is how you do what you construct a conditional structure. So we are going to take a very simple example, right? We are going to take a very simple example. So let's resolve this problem. So I will clean every other thing here, and I will leave this problem. This problem of one being an adult and the same time not being an adult. I don't even know how that works, right? I don't know how that, because if you execute this code now, the two things will show. I'm an adult, at the same time I'm not an adult. So let's assume that we're also dealing with age, that age should be used to determine if one is an adult. So it means that if I should come here and put my age, and then I say, so age is supposed to be integer, so I'll typecast it there at once, and then I put my input there, and then I would simply just say enter your age. So the thing is that anything you type in here will just get shown to the screen. So even if you make a typo error here, it doesn't really matter. It will just show the typo error, right? So even if you probably you change it to like something like this, of course it will still show like that. So this whatever you put in this code does not break your code, right? It doesn't break your code. It just get displayed like that, right? So I'll leave that error as that mistake as it is, right? And let's see. So if you execute this code now, right? If you execute this code now without conditional, you say that if I type in 18 by default, I should be an adult, right? But then if I click on enter, it shows both things. I'm an adult, and at the same time I'm not an adult. That is without what control flow, or that is without a conditional statement. So a default flow happens top to bottom. Most times we do not want that. In fact, majority of the time you would not want that, right? If you start to build some complex programs, majority of the times you don't want to execute the entire program. You want to execute some portion while leaving out other portion. Right. So one more thing again, before we go back again to complete this code, is that now you be wondering, now how do we construct expression that will always, right, no matter what, that will always do, that will always evaluate to Boolean value, right? So the trick is this. The trick is this. Is that when constructing this expression, we use what we call conditional operators. So we have conditional operators. So these are operators that if you mix it up, if you use them, operators, right? If you use them in your expression, they will always, they will always result to what? To a Boolean value. No matter how you want to wrap it up, right? No matter how you want to squeeze or do the expression, they will always come out as a Boolean value. Now, outside this operators, you are likely not going to have a Boolean result. Right outside these operators, you are likely not. Though there are some other operators that will give you, but we haven't arrived there yet, right? So once we get there, I'll also show you other operators. But for now, the basic operators that you can always use that will always give you a Boolean value as the final result are conditional operators. And these are operators that we know we've used them, right? We've used them before and back then, right? Back then, but then probably we use them for basic math. But then bringing those operators down to Python or to programming, they behave, I think, almost similar, all right? Almost the same way as we've been using them, or as we've known them. Right. So one of that operator is this operator. So this operator that we call the greater than sign, right? The greater than sign. We have another one that had the less than sign. We have another one. We have the greater than or equals to. We have another one, the less than or equals to. Then we have another one that looks like this. And this one here is equality, right? So it checks. So this one is like, are both parties the same, right? And then we have another one here then that says like this. So this one here is are both parties not the same, right? So not this one here is not equal. Here is what is equal. This one here is less than or equals to. This one here is greater than or equals to. This one is greater than, and this one is, sorry, less than, and the other one is greater than. Now having these operators in mind, if we replace any of these operator here, believe me, they will resolve to a Boolean value. So if let's take one at an instance. So I'll copy this man here and then just put it probably somewhere down here. Then we'll replace any of these operators, right? Like the plot and the minus with any of this sign here. And you see that the final expression of this man will do what will result to a Boolean value. So let's say if I change this man, if I change this plus to greater than, and probably change this man here to something like less than or equals to. If we carry out this evaluation, the results here will do what will result to a Boolean value. It will evaluate to a Boolean value, being true or false. So if you take a look at it, so the first part says that 3 is greater than 3, which is false, because of course 3 is not greater than 3. So we have something like this, we have something like false, and then we still have something like less than or equals to 1, or equals to 1. So which in this case, if we also say that that 3 is less than or equals to 1, which is still what? 4. So this whole expression here will evaluate to false. This whole expression here will evaluate to false. Now, if you change this other one to, let's say, to something like if you change this other one here, so let's say so we take out that division sign and we put out something like, let's say, 2. And something like greater than, of course, this man here will evaluate to true. So that's how that operators work, right? So their results are always Boolean values. So it's either true or it's what is false. That's just the trick that you ever use to do what, to always have expressions that will always evaluate to a Boolean value. So now, having that operators in mind, we'll bring it back home, and then we do what, we will solve this problem of of being an adult at the same time not being an adult. So after that age, I want to do what, I want someone to be an adult if they are above 18 years old. So I'll construct my conditional statement. So I'll use if. So if says that after this if keyword, what should follow should be what? An expression, right? That will evaluate to true or false. So in this case, if I say age should be if age is greater than or equals to 18, right? So at some point, this man here will do what, will evaluate to true or false. Because if I type in age here, and let's say I type in like 10 or 20 or whatever number that I type in here, that number here will be used to do what, to carry out this evaluation, where that number, right, is greater than or equals to 18. And if it's actually greater than or equals to 18, then what? Then it makes this condition to be true. So as such, whatever specified code I put here will do what, will get executed. So in this case, this is the only specified code that I intend to put there. So like I said, this code can be long, can be very long. Okay, so not because we are using just one specified code, it doesn't mean that it's always one specified code. This code can be as long as possible, right? So everything within that that indentation will get executed, right? Will get executed. So if I should comment on this one out now, you see that if I should rerun this code, it will behave differently, right? So it will stop, it will execute some part and leave out what, some part. So if I should go ahead and run this now, and then I type in something like 15 as my age and click on enter, you see that the code has finished executing. Nothing happened. Now, because now the reason why nothing happened is because this was evaluated to what, to false. Because what happened here is 15 greater than or equals to 18. Is it true or false? 15 greater than or equals to 18. Is it true or false? 15 greater than or equals to 18. Is it true or false?
It's false.
It's false. Right. So because that was evaluated to false, right? So nothing happened. Because remember, we said that the if statement does what? Only executes what, your specified code when that condition is true, when that expression is true. So because this evaluated to false, nothing happened. This our specified code did not execute. So it left the default order of execution. So it left that code alone and just ended it. So since there was no other code after that conditional structure, nothing else happened. The code has come to an end, right? So if we run it again, right, and then probably put something that will make that condition there true, then you say that we have what we have, I am an adult. So if I put something like 25 here, or there's a 30, okay, and we have I am an adult. So this way we don't have everything showing at once. We don't have everything showing at once. Like we don't have everything showing. We can control what will show for a specific situation and control what will also show for a specific one for another situation. That is just the beauty of conditional statement. So question before we move to other keywords. Question pertaining to the if structure before we move to the other keywords. Question. All right, so the silence means no question, and we are following just fine. That is fantastic. All right, so let's look at the other ones that we have. Okay, let's look at else. So how does else work exactly? So I'll still do the writing here up there, and the practical is down there, right? So how does else actually work? Now the way else works is this. Now the else structure, right, is used in conjunction with the if statement. So once I think someone hands up, Mr. Barry, brother. Yeah, is a question.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so I wanted to ask about that if statement. Like, okay, what if you are not an adult? Like, can you write another statement under that if statement stating that if you are less than 18 means you are not an adult?
Yes, you can. You can. We are actually heading there, right? We are actually heading there. At the moment, we can simply just do this. And now I think that why I commented this man out is that this man here, I took it outside of that structure of the conditional flow, right? So then this man here is where is in default flow. So it means that even if we don't show this man will do what will always show. So if I'm adult, this man will do what will execute, and this man here will do what will also execute. So this man here will only will if I'm less than 18, then this man here will not do what execute, but this man here will do what we keep on doing what showing because we've not put it in a situation where it should show for a specific kind of situation. So that's why I commented it out, which we are going to resolve that issue, right? We are going to resolve that issue soon, right? We'll fix that. So that's why I pointed that man out for the moment, right? We'll bring it back up. So just hold
Okay,
on.
sir.
Yeah, just hold on and we will fix it, right? We'll fix it real quick. All right. So the else keyword, all right? So the main thing that we should know here is that the else is used in conjunction. So it means that it cannot even stand alone, right? So without the if statement, the else cannot even exist. So the if statement must have existed first before the else even exists, right? So that's why I'm saying that it is used in conjunction with the if statement. So without the if statement, there is no else statement, right? If not, if I should clean this up and try to start with else, you see an error because what we haven't even seen the if yet. So we use it in conjunction with the if statement to only execute your specified code when the condition of the if statement is false. Let me break this down. I think it's too long. Let me bring this. Right. So it's used in conjunction with the if statement, right, to only execute your specified code when the condition of the if statement is false. So you could see that I never mentioned anything pertaining to the else condition, right? So everything is still hanging on if. So else is used with if statement and it's still depending on the if statement condition, right? But this time around is waiting for that condition to be false. So its own portion of code only executes when the if structure, right, gives a false condition, then the else takes up from there and do what and execute its own part. That is how the else structure works, right? So it's used with if statements and only executes when the condition of the if statement is false. All right, so having that in mind, please, so we're having some typo error somewhere. Okay, so fix that. All right, so having that in mind now, if we should now go back again to our structure that we have down there, and then you'll be wondering, how do we now use this else in conjunction with this if structure now, right? So now remember that by default, your cursor will always be indented because Python assumes that this portion of code can be as long as possible, right? So we cannot use else inside there, right? So you only want to use else once you have done, like once you are done with what with your code for the if structure. Then you want to do what you want to step out of that indentation. Now, you don't want to be inside there, you want to be outside of that indentation, because the moment you put it inside here, it will count it as what, as part of the things that should get executed for what, for if. So as such, the whole concept of the if and the else will not even work, right? So it will still assume that there is no else attached to this if, right? So you have to make sure that you are outside this that indentation, and then you do what, you type in your else. Now, the else does not have condition. So if you look at what I explained, that what it is used in conjunction, right? So it doesn't have its own personal condition. So it's still hanging on the condition of if, praying and hoping that that condition turns false. So it can do what? So it can execute its own part, right? So I can come here now and do what? So after your else, follow by what? Follow a colon, right? And also by default, if you click on enter, it gets indented, because it now assumes that you want to start giving your the portion for what, for the else structure. So at this point, I can now bring in this man, and then this will prevent this man from doing what, from following the normal flow. So I put it there, and this man will only execute if this man here is false. Are we together? So this man here, for this man here to tell you that you're not an adult, this man here needs to evaluate to a Boolean value of false. Now, for any reason that this man here evaluate to a Boolean value of true, then this man gets to execute, and this man never does what, execute again. Are we together? Now that way we now control which portion should execute, which portion should not do what, execute. So now if we run our code again, and this time around, we put something smaller than 18, because at the moment, the only time that you can be an adult in our own source code at this point is for you to be from 18 years and above. So if I put something like 10, then I should have I am not an adult. So you see that the else block get executed. Now the reason for that is that it is because what, this man here evaluated to what, to false, and that is how the else block behaves. So it waits, right? It hangs and waits for what, for the if condition to be what, to be false. Question. Before we proceed to the last keyword. So I said that before the I said that this concept is a very simple and sweet concept, right? We use it, but in fact, as a programmer, you can never run away from this concept, because it by default, or if you're building our software, I don't think all your source code should be running at the same time. Now, imagine now going to ATM, all right, and then you slot in your PIN. Now, and then you type in a wrong PIN, and next thing you're seeing withdrawal executing, next thing you're seeing deposit executing, and next thing you're seeing, like, everything is executing at the same time. No, so that's typically not how software should behave, right? So in your ATM, there are conditionals, right? There are people, there are conditions, they're waiting line by line. Probably the first condition is what is for your PIN to be correct. Now, if your PIN is correct, then it shows you where you can do what, either deposit, or do what, or you withdraw, or you do what, or you check balance, right? Now, all those things now are all tied what, to conditionals. And then where your option is what is deposit, then it takes the word to deposit. That if it's withdrawal, it takes you to withdrawal, and so on and so forth, right? So you will always use conditional, right? It's something that you can't even run away from it, right? It's a fundamental of every program. Question before we proceed. Question. Right. So the silence means there is no question, and we are following very wonderful. Please, one quick note again is that please, the tax I gave us on the group, it has nothing to do with your promotional tax, right? Your promotional tax will come. It will definitely come this week. I think last week was more like a breathing space. Right? You guys breathe and relax. So please, that tax will come in this week. I'm telling you. So Mr. Dan, your hand is up. Question.
Okay, sir. So are you hearing me?
Yeah, I am hearing you. I'm hearing you.
Okay. My question is, if you don't want to use the else operator, can you use if for I am an adult and also use if for I am not an adult? Like use them separately.
Yes, yes, you can use them separately if it's permitted to stay alone. But this is what will happen. But let me show you what will happen. This is what will happen. So let's break down this and code again. Right. So this if, right, ifs can stay on their own, but you see else cannot stay on their own. So let's edit our else to if. This is what will happen. The thing is that paraventure, right? Paraventure, both conditions are true. The both actions on both ends will execute. Let's assume that I have something like this. Let's assume that I have something like let's look at another scenario so we could probably better understand what I want to show us. And let's assume that to be an adult, right? I'm looking for the best scenario that so I will show you probably what I'm trying to say. Right. So I was saying that that both can exist on their own, but there's a situation where your condition may conflict with another person's condition. And let's assume that I have a situation that where I say because if you are from if your age is greater than zero, right? That still makes you not to be an adult, right? If I say age should be greater than zero, it still makes you not to be an adult, Abi. Are we together? Are we together? So if I should set age to not be to be if I say age if I say age should be greater than zero, right? So it means that even if I should put age as one, this will still make you not to be an adult, Abi. Are we together? If I should put age one as age, right? That should still tell me that you're not an adult. So let's execute this, and I put something like let's say one there. It shows that what I am not an adult, right? That worked. Please confirm that you're seeing my screen, right? Because I want to show us something right now. We are following, right? All right. So we say that even if I have something like let's say like 15, right? I'll say that I'm not an adult, right? Because of what? Because of my condition here. But then what happens? See what happens now. The moment I do this, the moment I do something like 20, what do you think will happen? Both condition will fire up. Both condition will do what will fire up. So if I do something like this, oh sorry, that was supposed to execute and I closed it. So if I do something like this, like say like 20, right? I'll have what? I'll have both not again. Sorry. So it should be 20 and then enter. I keep going to my delete button. Sorry. So 20 and then what happened? Both condition fired up. So the thing is that if statements are considered as a single block of condition. So this is seen as what as a single block of condition. This is seen as what as a single block of condition. Both of them are on their own. So it means that if this condition here is true and this one here is true, both of them will do what will fire out on their own. But when you attach it to like if and else, it sees the if and the else as one block of what of conditional statement that only one can only execute, not both. Do you understand? Do you understand? Let's communicate that. Okay, Barry, your hand is up.
Okay,
Barry.
so I wanted asking if you should put like this second if you should put less than 18 there, would it still show to I'm an adult?
No, it's not sure, right? So it's not sure. So what it will work. Oh, sorry, less than 18, yeah, less than 18, yeah. Of course, it will not show, right? So the thing is that this condition here is no longer conflicting with that condition. So I was trying to explain to us that if can stay on their own, but certain situation may occur where the two conditions are conflicting. As such, it may lead to a problem where both specified code for each if, right, get executed. So that was the point I was trying to identify, right? But then if you put separate condition for each of them that will not conflict, then of course they will work just fine. But the safest way is to attach it with else, because if you put it with else, then it's seen as one conditional structure where only one action out of other structure can only be executed, right? So it saves us the stress of trying to do what to make sure that this condition here is not matching with this condition here, or it's not conflicting with our other condition there, right? It of course, if we leave it like this, it will still work just fine. It will work as if both of them are if and else, right? Due to how that condition is being placed. How do you get that? Does that make sense? All right. So the silence means that it makes a lot of sense. All right. So it makes a lot of sense. Okay, fine. Okay. All right. So let's continue. Right. Let's continue. Right. Let's continue. All right. So the safest way is to use the constructed as well as if and else, where only one operation will be bound to the what to happen, right? But in situation where you have this kind of separate ifs, of course, then you have to make sure that these conditions are not conflicting with that other condition, so that it doesn't lead to a situation where both action do what get executed, right? So for the purpose of should I say of readability, right? I'll just leave it as else, right? I'll leave it as else, right? So it's easier for someone to just see that and just know, okay, this is one conditional structure, right? Because the moment is that if I should see multiple, if I assume that there are different structures, right, and they are controlling separate things. But then if all these things is supposed to control something between to just age, it's easier for me to tell that, okay, that these are all condition based for just that age. But then if I see multiple ifs, I assume that probably these ifs are controlling different aspects of your code, right? So for variability's sake, I'll leave it as else, right? I'll leave it. So that's one thing about programming, right? There is no fixed, should I say, there's no fixed law that says it must be this way, right? So someone else, right, might choose to do the same thing, but with two ifs, and they will still work just fine, right? They will still work just fine. So I always tell people that it's difficult to copy someone's code. Like if you see two codes that were copied, you will just know, right? You will just know, because the tendency of having exactly the same code is almost impossible. Like exactly line to line and comment to comment is very impossible, except you copy someone's code. Right, so accept that. So I'm not telling you that just in case once you start doing the promotional tax, once I see a tax that upgrade that looks exactly like another tax, I'll fail both of it. And I'll fail the both tax. Right? So it's hard to copy someone's code. It's very hard. It's very hard. All right. So now let's look at the last keyword called Elif. So this one it sounds funny. Elif, right? So it's basically the short form. Elif is basically the short form of else if, right? But then in Python, it's a short form. It is a short form for else if, right? So it's a short form for else if, but then it's been identified as Elif, right, here in Python programming. So unlike other programming languages where you have to specifically write it out like this as it is, else if, right? For Python, you simply take the first two character here and then join with that if, and it gives you Elif. Right, so how does the Elif structure works? So it's similar. So I'll copy what I have with else because it's similar to else. So it's used with a conjunction with if statement. All right, it's used with a conjunction with the if statement. Right, so it's a short form for Elif used in conjunction with the if statement. But then this time around, it doesn't hang on. Well, it still hangs on if condition, but not entirely on if condition, right? So it's used in conjunction with the if statement to construct to construct, all right, conditionals, condition, to construct statement rather for other conditions. Right. So basically it allows you to test more than one condition, because your if condition is one single condition, right? Your if statement can only take one condition at a time. Or should I say everything that it will evaluate it to one single condition. So assuming you intend to test for as many conditions as possible, right? So let's look at another scenario. So a scenario, let's go back to the one we use with countries. Let's say someone, if you are going to if you are going to Europe, right? You are permitted to play football, right? If you are going to Canada, you are permitted to play hockey. If you are going to South Africa, you are permitted to do what? Dance. So then you can say that what that those are those are different connections, right? There's no way we can merge all of them and put it as one connection for it, because at the end of it all of them will evaluate to one single value, which will only execute one specific action at a time. So that means if someone that wants to play football cannot or should not be able to do what to play hockey and should not be able to dance, right? So there are two separate conditions. So if you have such scenario, that's where the Elif comes in, where it gives you room, to do what to test for what for multiple conditions. And how is that structure work? So it's like I also said, that is used in conjunction. So it means it cannot also exist on its own. So you have to find a way to tie it to if. So if in a situation where you intend to use Elif, please, the Elif should always come before your else, right? The Elif should only come before your else, right? It should always come before your else, because the else is more like the final block that should execute when all the conditions that you've created are false, right? So the Elif should always come before your else. So before my else, I put in my Elif there. So like I said, you have to always do what indent out of the block. If not, it will be considered as part of that action that should be executed, right? So I'll indent out and then I'll call this Elif. So Elif also takes condition, and then followed by what? Followed by your specified code, right? So and like I said, this code can be as long as possible, right? It can be as long as possible. So it's all up to you, right? So I think let me rather just come here and put the full structure here for reference sake. So I'll put in my Elif and then condition colon, and then my specified code. So specified code, and it could be as long as possible. And then at the end of it all, I have my else, and of course my specified code, right? And it can be as long as possible, and then I will complete. I'll just simply comment it out. All right, so that is the full structure of how your if, elif, and else statement or structure looks like. So, but then your elif and your else cannot exist alone. They have to be tied to this man up there, right? But this man up there can live and breathe alone, right? So coming back here, let's see how we can test for other condition, and let's also assume that we also want to test for a condition where we can tell someone that you are old, right? You are old, right? So not just an adult. Let's say from 18 and above, you should be an adult, right? And then okay, let's say once you are 18, you're an adult, right? And then let's say if you're up to about 60 years, then you are old, right? And those are two conditions, right? Those are two separate conditions. One you have to be 18, right? And the other one you have to be 60 years old. So two different ages for two different block of code, or for two different instructions. So I will modify this condition here to do what to be and to point directly to what to 18. So you can only be an adult if you are 18. We are just taking an example, right? That you can only be an adult if you are 18. So let's assume that I also want to check if you're old. By old, we are assuming that by old you are like 90 years old, right? and for you to be termed as an old person, you have to be up to about 90 years old. So I'll simply come here and say, well, let my age, if age, right? Also check if age is equals to what, to 90. So at this point, what happens is that Python will go over each of these conditions one after the other. Now, the first condition that matches, then is the first one that will execute. I'll simply say what you are old, for instance, right? So now what happens is that if I should execute this code, right, only one thing among all these action, what is expected to be executed. So this is seen as what, as one block of conditional statements where only one instruction can be executed. Only one instruction can be executed. So I'll put this one down here so I can comment it out, because so we can run our code. Without it, we can't. Right. So I run it again. And then at this point, if we put something like let's say 100, right? It will tell us what? It will tell us that we are not an adult, because due to how we do, or due to how we structured our condition, right? So it's due to how we structured our condition. So here we're saying that that 100 years will still result to what, to you not being an adult. Now the problem is from what? Is from our condition, which is totally fine. So we intentionally did that. So it said that while we are having a problem. All right. So, okay. So I think we did not. Let's see. So let's rerun this again and let's try it again one more time. All right. So let's go ahead and let's say 100, and then we say it says that we are not an adult. Now it's totally fine because we intentionally did that, right? Due to how we structure our conjunction. So we are trying to do what? We are trying to see how the Elif works in conjunction with if. So now if I should now come again and do what, so what basically happened there is that it took this 100, right, and did the condition one after the other. So it seems quick, right? It seems quick for us, but behind the scene, that's basically what is happening. So this 100 is being used and then done what, validated with the if condition. And since it was 4, because 100 is not the same thing as 18, right? So remember, this sign is what is equality. It means that both sides must be the same. So 100 is not the same thing as 18, so it's false. So instead of it jumping to else straight, it moves, because there is Elif now available. It moves to the Elif block. So it also check here again. Is 100 the same thing as 90, which is not the same thing, right? So what happens at the end of it, or there was no other choice, right, than the else block to do what, to execute, because all the condition here were false. So that's why we are having what, I am not an adult as the final result, because of what every other condition there was false. Every other condition there was false, right? So running the code again and putting in 100 and then click enter, we have I am not an adult. But if we have something like, let's say 18 on the dot, right, then at that point it tells us that we are an adult. So you see that at this point, this condition is true. So this executed, every other thing now become what, terminated. So that's the whole point of constructing this thing like this, right? So it saves you the stress of memorizing if the previous condition is conflicting with this other condition. So you have nothing to worry about at this point. So we just know that any condition that matches first, that is the one that will get executed, right? So if I should now come again and then I put in something like 90, then at that point you have what, you are old, because that is the only question that have matched so far. So here did not match because 90 is not the same thing as 18, but here 90 is the same thing as 90. So I saw this one executed, every other thing got terminated. Question. So that is basically how the Elif works. It gives you room to do what, to test for other conditions if you want to do a test for them. It gives you that room, and you can have multiple Elifs, right, in one structure, in one conditional structure. So you can have one else, one if, but then you can have multiple Elifs. So if I wanted to test for, let's say, for when you are 70, let's say I have a specific instruction to be executed when you are 70, right? So again, I can simply copy my Elif and just paste it there again. Remember, I have to tap it out. If not, it will be considered as part of the of a specified code, right? So if I paste it here now I can test for nothing. Probably I can test for 70. And at 70, I can tell you probably you are mature, right? So I think that makes sense. Okay, you are mature. And then what? We now have three conditions, three separate conditions with each of with each of them owning their own specified code. So even if we've written code from line 49 all the way to line 56, at this point, only at the end of the day, only one line of out of all these things will get executed. So that's the beauty of control flow. So it stops that top to bottom execution, but then execute a specific portion based on a specific condition. All right. So if I should now run this again, we should now have I'm putting 70 there. Then we have you are mature. So 70 is the only one that matches that was true. Then we have 70 there. So then we have what we have, you are matured, right? So, but then if we have all condition 4, let's say you put in 100, which will make everything false because at this point, we don't have a specific condition for when you're 100. So at that point, else does what execute, telling us what that I am not an adult. Question before we proceed. Question. Let me stand, the hand is up, okay? Shoot.
Good afternoon. Please, I want to ask, in a situation where you ask for age and
Yes, in a situation
sex,
we ask for age
let's say the person, let's say one, age and sex, and the person, they are now trying to form the if and Elif code. Now, how do we get something like how do we make the computer now give us a differentiation between the male and female so that you can now say, hello ma, you are old, and hello sir, you are old, if the person is a woman and a person is old, and the person is a man and is old, or the person is
Okay. So I think I get your question, Mr. Stanley. That's a very fantastic question. All right. That's a very fantastic question, right? And we're gonna look at it, right? We are gonna solve that problem. So we are actually heading there, right? We are actually heading there. Okay, we are actually heading there. So the thing is that so far these are like the basics of conditional statements, right? And we've seen that these are the only operators that can always give us Boolean values, right? So in a case where we need to construct expressions to give us Boolean value, then these are the operators that we could always use. But then what if we intend to do to combine more than one condition? Because at this point we are having this is a single expression. So as such, it's like a single condition, right? So as if we wanted to have more than one condition, or to combine multiple conditions, right? And then evaluate all of them as one single condition, right? At that point, how do we resolve that kind of issue? Fantastic. So we have other operators that we can use in collaboration or in conjunction, okay, with conditional operators. And these operators, we call them logical operators. It's similar to what we've also used before, right? It's similar, the logical operators. So these are operators that we can use. So we can use in conjunction. So we can use these ones. We can use these operators in conjunction with the conditional operators to construct a more complex condition. So, Mr. Stanley, don't worry, we're gonna answer that question real quick. I'll give you a little bit of time. Let's just arrive there, right? Let's just arrive there. Okay, so these operators, we can use them, right, in conjunction with conditional operators to construct a more complex condition, right? So let's assume that we have gender as well, and then we intend, or probably let's say that we have other things that we also need to include in this our condition, right? That we can use to do what to probably make it a little bit complex. Let's say we have something like age, not age, again, gender, and then this gender we could just, I'll just copy this paste it. So well, over time we mostly be copying and pasting and editing because that's how it is in program, right? There's certain things that you just copy and paste and move on and edit, move on, right? Okay, but for now we have to just write out everything. Okay, so here I would say enter your gender. I will explicitly put M, put comma F, right? So it means enter M or F, right? If for your gender in caps lock precisely. Okay, so what we could do again is that let's also assume, right? So please, Stanley, we'll come back to that your question, right? I have a perfect way of resolving that question, but don't give me like after this concept, the next concept, then we'll resolve that your problem, right? So let's assume that we also intend to say, let's assume that in order for you to be an adult, assuming, right? I'm just assuming, right, that in order for you to be an adult, that you must be 18 years old and you must also be a male. Right? So consider that those are like two conditions, right? You must be a male and also be 18 years old. So at that point, you can't just be 18 years old and be an adult. You must also be a male. So at that situation, how do we add that other condition of checking if they are male? So that's where logical operator comes in. So we can use that operator to tie more than one condition. And these operators are simply three in numbers. The AND, which behave as AND, the AND gate that we know back then, right, where both sides must be true. Remember, and work like that, both sides must be true. 1 and 1 is 1, 1 and 0 is 0, 0 and 1 is 0, and 0 and 0 is 0. Right. So both sides must be true for this and to be true. And then we have or on the other side that says that at least one side has to be true. So probably let me just write this thing down for remembrance sake, right? So we have and. So and says that both sides must be true, right? So it means that if we evaluate the equation on the left and then we evaluate the one on the right, that both of them must evaluate to true for this whole expression to be true. So both sides must be true for the result to be true. So that's how and work, right? And or on the other side, it says that at least one side must be true. Or says at least one side must be true for the result to be true. That's how or behaves. So even if you have one false on one side, and even if it's only one side that is true, then automatically the whole expression of what is true, right? Automatically. So and then we also have and. Sorry, not rather. So not is it's more like a negator. So not negates the Boolean value. So this one negates the Boolean value. It negates the Boolean value. So it means that if you have a condition that is true, it negates it to false. So this one takes in just condition, right? So this one, the not doesn't really have a left and right side, right? So it's more like a unique kind of a operator, right? That just takes condition and then evaluate it. So that and then negate it rather, right? So it negates the Boolean value, right? So if it was true, it changes it to false, and if it was false, it changes it to true. That's how not to work, right? So let's now, having this in mind, let's bring that this whole explanation down to our situation here, where in order for you to be an adult, you must be 18 and also you must be a male. Please, I'm not doing gender inequality here, please. It's just for illustration's sake, please, right? So we can flip that by putting and there, right? And then you put in your second condition, which in this case here we are saying that the gender, right, has to be male, right? So this is what your one condition. This is another condition, and for this entire expression to be true, one must be 18, one must also be male. So if we execute this now, and then we put something like, let's say 18, or we put something like female, we have what? We have I'm not an adult, because this is not true, right? Your gender has to be a male. So because you are 18 and your gender is not also a male, so this is what false, right? So you move to the next condition, being what age is something at 90. So at this point, we have 18, which is still what? False. Same thing here, 18 and something at 70, which is what? False. So else has no other option than to execute, right? So that is why we are having what? I'm not an adult, but I'm not an adult. That is how and work. Both sides must be true. So if I should run again and then this time around I put in male as gender, okay. I put in 18 here, and then I put in male. Then what I am an adult. So because both sides are true. So with this logical operators, it doesn't really mean that it can only be just two conditions. You can tie as many as possible. You can even come and add another and here, right? And then add another connection. Probably around you also want to also take for something else, then you can add it there. So you can have as many and as many or, right? So and also just because you use and here doesn't mean that everything should be and, right? You can also mix and with or not. You can mix up this whole operator, but then know that when Python want to evaluate this thing, it will evaluate it from left to right. So you start from this one and evaluate all the way to the last one, right? So I can still have or here, right? I can put or here. Or behaves where one side has to be true. So even if I change this to or, then all I need is for if one of these side to be true. So if I'm even 18, I can qualify to be an adult, even if I'm not a male, right? So if I should run this now, I'm just use 18 and probably still use female 18 with female. Then this should be what this is to tell I am an adult, right? So this one here is true. So because this one part is true, then the entire expression is what is true. Question. I think someone hands up. Sorry. Someone raised his hand. Please come up and ask the question. Someone hand is up. Someone hand was up, brother. Someone hand was up. Right. So I think the person I think we've lost the person at some point. Question. Any someone else has question? Someone else have question? Someone else have question? Right, so the silent Mr. Gabriel. Okay. Please shoot, Mr. Gabriel. Ask the question. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. I think this age has been clarified, but this the place I'm getting confused is this gender now. Is there a way that we can do it that if the gender is not male, that it's we give us female? Like how can you input it in this code, like on this Elif or else?
Okay. So let me, if I get your question properly, right? So your question is that right, that the problem here is gender, right? If there's a way we can be an adult even if we are female, right? Is that a question? Is that a question? Is that your question? So please.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. So I'm
Can you hear me?
asking, is okay? I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. Please shoot.
Okay, so what I'm asking is,
okay.
yeah, now you wrote if gender is male, that the
Okay.
computer should, the code should print an adult. So I want to ask, is there a way that we can do it that if the person is not male, the person maybe is not male, they think, okay, the code should give us something like you are not a male or something to show that okay, is a female, or give us code that shows that the person is female.
Yes, we can fix that. Yes, we can. I think that same question is similar to what the other person asked, Mr. Stanley asked, right? If we could have a session where we can now say, okay, if you're an adult, we can now say, okay, hello ma, you're an adult, or hello sir, you're an adult, based on your gender, right? Of course, we can fix that issue. So we can fix that issue just fine. So what we could do is this, right? So someone else hand is up. Mr. Barry, your hand is up.
Yes, I wanted to ask, like, if there's any way you can, like, when writing the code, you write it in such a way that when you're playing out the code down here, like you not have to type, like you can choose like between male and female. There's no other option there. You just have to choose between male and female. Like you have to just choose it without writing.
Okay,
Like
like to
example,
choose. Right? Yeah.
you're
Okay,
already
okay,
going on
yeah.
a website. If you're reaching on a website now, you're going to see choose male or female, like something like that.
We can. We can. Well, yes, of course we can. We also fix that. All right. So we also fix that. All right. So just go on and we'll see how we can work wonders and get it fixed. All right. So so in order to answer Mr. Gabriel and Mr. Stanley's problem, correct? So we need to understand another concept. So I think we are basically done with the basis of conditional. So I'm not sure there's any question pertaining. So these are all the basics of conditional. So all these things is available on that slide, right? So all the things that we've done so far, all these notes and points are all available here on the slide. So we still get it, and when the time is right, we'll get those slides. Okay, so but then everything on that slide, that it is more like a summarized version of that entire slide, right? So this is basically the basics, right, of conditional. Right? Now having that in mind, there's another concept, right? That goes beyond this basic, and this concept is called nesting. Nesting in conditionals, right? So let's see how nesting works. Nesting in conditionals. So I'll still carry this code and this note, and I'll take it up. Remember, all notes are up there. So I just put it somewhere down here. Right, nesting in conditionals. Yes. It should be there. It should be there. If I'm sure that it should be there, then it should be there, right? So nesting in conditional. So what is basically nesting? Nesting is basically having, right? Having a conditional statements. Conditional. So if you understand how conditional works, then this nesting shouldn't be a problem, right? So having a conditional statement inside another conditional statement, right? So it's a situation where the specified code that should execute for a particular condition is also another condition, right? That is basically what nesting is. So a typical structure of how nesting is. Okay, let me just show you one example. So you can have, excuse me, you can have something like this: if, right, followed by a condition, right? For example, and then the specified code for this again can be another if that comes with its own what condition, right? And can even have okay, the specified code, right? The specified code to be executed is equal to executed, right? And can even have Elif, right? And can even have Elif. So I'll copy this one because Elif is, I think, the same thing again, almost similar. It's the same thing here. So it can even have its own Elif, multiple Elif, so if need be, right? And can even have else. Okay, so I'll just play this one here. Right? And this is more like the if, right? And this outside if can even have its own elif, right? That can come with its own condition, right? That can even have its own ifs inside again. Are we together? Right? And can even have multiple elif with its own condition. Something like this again, I think. Right? And can even have else that has its own ifs inside. Right? And even this inner ifs, right, can even have their own ifs. Are we making sense? Something like that. And they work. So this is the first if, this is the inner if that's inside that if, and this is the inner one that's inside this inner if, right? So it means that for this particular action to be executed, right, this man here must be true, This man here must also be true. This man here must also be true before this man even get to work to execute it. That is how nesting works, right? And it's also advisable that you don't nest too much. Please don't go beyond 3 inner loop. So don't go beyond 3 inner conditional. Please, that is the recommended number. It doesn't mean that you cannot go more than that, but the moment you start going to 4 to 5 to 6 inner, you start making things very complicated for you. So it's advisable that you don't go beyond 3 nesting in conditional, right? So that's basically what nesting is. We can have what a condition that's inside what another condition. So let's put this in practice, right? And let's answer those questions that we had earlier. All right. So I'll go back. I'll comment this out as well, please. It's pretty long. Okay, so I'll comment it out. So that's how nesting is, right? So coming back again. Okay, so we could solve that problem. So the first question was, is there a way that we could have gender, right? And then we could not say, right, if you are male, I could not say, okay, if you are male, I could not say, hello, ma, you are an adult. And if, sorry, if you are male, I cannot say, hello, sir, you are an adult. And if you are female, I cannot say, hello, ma, you are what? You are an adult. So basically, what I want to do now is this, right? So I wouldn't even want to bother to put this other condition here any longer, right? So what I will simply do is I'll bring it inside this condition as a nested conditional statement. So it means that for you to get to a point where I have to check if you are a gender, first of all, you need to be what? You need to be 18 years old, right? So if you are if gender equals to what? To male, then I could jump. Then I could not say I could not pass this now as what? As the certified code for it. And then at this point, I could now say, hello, sir, right? You are an adult. I will simply just do the same thing with Elif again. And so Elif gender, right, is equals to female. Then at this point, I will now say, hello, ma, you are an adult, right? And then if you type in something outside F and M at this point, then we have it. Then we have what the else, where the else will tell you that what you type, we cannot really know what you're typing, right? So I could simply say at this point, if you are 18, I send then you're male or a female. But then if there's something outside of male or female, I could simply say something like I could say invalid gender type, right? So that's resolve our problem. Right, so at this point, this is nesting, right? Where the specified action for this condition is also what conditional statement, which also carries their own specified action. So it means that for this man here to show, hello, sir, I'm an adult. First of all, you must be what? You must be 18 years old, right? So if you're not even up to 18 years old, this we wouldn't even bother to even start checking. So you just skip to what to the Elif and the other Elif and the other else. So for it to even sink inside, right? Sink inside this other statement, the first one here has to be true. So having this in mind, I can simply go back and then I can simply write it out again, and then probably at this time I'll put something like 20. So this should tell me that what we don't have okay, male. Another. So at this point, we don't have any condition that we captured 20. So that's why we are having what? I'm not an adult. So if you go back and let's put something like 18, okay? Put something like 18, and put something like male. And at that point, say, well, hello, sir, I am what? I am an adult. Same thing will happen if I put something like a female, then it should be 18. And then female, I am what? Hello, ma. I am what? I am an adult. Mr. Stanley, have we answered your question with nesting?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
All right. So the other question again is that if there was a way we could do what, we could just choose rather than what type. Okay. So so far our command we haven't gotten to GUI, and we will never get to GUI, right? Where you can build an interface that looks like desktop where you can click, right, and pass. But what you could do is that instead of typing M and F, right, to avoid a problem, right, or someone coming to type in, because if I should put small m here, this small m is no longer the same thing as big M now, so this will not even violate, right? So if I should do something like this, right, where we have where we have if I put like 18, right, and then I put small m, it shows invalid gender type, right? So to resolve that problem, there is need to know what to choose than to type. So the easiest way we could do is we could say something like this. We can come back and edit this statement so it makes sense. I could say choose your gender below. We'll say choose, and probably I will just change this. Okay, right above it, I'll use my print instead because print will make a lot of sense. I would simply just say choose gender below, and then right below I would have a very fine print again, where I could say at this point I'll put 1. So here we just simply just pick 1 because at this point there's no small one or big one. 1 is 1, right? So I think 1 will solve the problem. Or should I say numbers will solve the problem. So if I just say number 1 is male, and I'll give 1 straight space, empty space, so I'll just do number 2. I'll just do female, right? And then right under here, I will just simply just change choice. So you now type your 1 there, right? So at this point, I'll come back and edit this conditional to be if this is equals to 1, which is male, and this is equals to 2, which is female. So at this point, it's easier to resolve the problem, okay? Because some users are very funny. Right? You explicitly put m. You come here and put m, f. It's very clear that what the other m and f. Some users will come and type in male in full, right? They want to come and show themselves that they can spell, right? So some users can be very funny, but I think with this kind of situation, we've solved that issue. So if I should now run this again, and we now have 8, I can put 18, and then I can choose between 1 or 2. So if I now choose 1, so it says invalid. Let's go by lecture again. Okay, yeah, invalid. Of course, it's invalid. Remember, gender. We're not expecting it as an integer, an actual number, right? So you have to typecast. So int this up, and we are good to go, right? So run this again, and 18, and then 1. Say hello, sir. We are what? I am an adult. Does that make sense? Yeah. We did the conversion there. Thank you very much for that quick observation. Very quick observation from Mary Jane. Right. Question. Any question? Okay. Where don't we understand, Mr. Gabriel? Let me recap. Mr. Gabriel, where don't we understand? Please unmute and let's hear from you so we can wrap it up real quick. We have about few minutes left.
Can
okay, so wait, Mr. Gabriel. Yeah, I can hear you.
From this place you wrote print choose gender below. I don't really understand how you imputed that code to give you these 1 and 2. Please, can you explain from that print?
Okay, all right, fine. All right. Okay, so before now okay, so let me see if I can revert these codes that we had here. Let me undo. Right, so before now we had a situation where we have to type, right? And I think Mr. Barry said that if there was a way that we could make the user not type, because there can be a situation where a user can come in here and do what and type in the agenda in lowercase, which is different from what we've coded for, right? Because in our source code we coded for upper cases M and F, and then we even especially use M and F here, right? So that user can say that word it should be capital M and capital A. But users are very funny because the thing is that you can control how your code behaves, but you can never control how any user behave. Any users are very weird in nature, right? So the problem we're having is that someone can be 18 years old, but then type in small m, right? Which will lead to what? To us having what? Invalid gender types. Because what this m and this m that we coded for were different, right? We're 2 different m's. So now we now say, okay, let's change it from typing a character to choosing number, because 1 and 1 is the same thing. There's nothing like uppercase 1 and lowercase 1. 1 is all what? 1 is all 1. So we now we factor our code, right, to do what? To include a situation where gender can now be choose based on what? On number. So we simply brought in print statement, right, where we say choose gender video, right? Just above that gender stop there, right? And then we now brought in another print. So this is just basically print. So this, remember, print is that it just shows whatever you type. So we just did one fancy thing that where we now move one long space. So this thing here will just show like that, because that's how print behave. So the longer the space, that's how this space is filled will also show on our client side, right? So these are just print statements, right? They're just print statements. So, and then we now simply make gender to simply just carry choose. So this is where you come in and choose between what? 1 or 2, right? And then we now have to refactor our conditionals, right? To now carry 1 and 2, right? To now check if gender is 1 or 2 and no longer M and F, right? So that, remember, small m is different from big M. So now we have to change that M totally to 1, which is what we did here. Now we now say that we now check now if gender is what is 1. So at this point we are hoping, right, and also expecting that the end user type in numbers and not male, because end users are very weird. They can still see male and female, and they will still come and type again male and female. But at this point, we are hoping that they choose 1 or 2, right? So now we now have to come back and refactor this code from F to what? To 2, right? So that it fits in that new logic. Okay, so it fits in that new logic, and then we have to come back again and typecast, because remember, everything that comes in from that input comes in as a string, and at this point we are looking at the actual int and not the string part of it. So we come back again. So, but if you don't want to typecast, then we can simply come here and put these things in quotes and it will work. But at this point, it's weird saying one in quotes is it just looks weird, right? So we now typecast there again. We typecasted there, and that was how we arrived there, right? That was how we arrived there. Is that understood? Is that understood? So I believe yeah, we could use dot lower. Yeah, it could have still worked if we use dot lower. Yeah, this would have worked, right? But we haven't covered string as a topic yet, right? So that's why I can't go beyond outside the scope of this particular class. So probably once we cover string as a topic, then we'll bring in things like this, right? So it says about that there are also some pages that limits the kind of information that you can either alphabet or numeric. How do we do that? Right. So at this basic level that we have, we can write multiple conditional statements where we could check and what we are typing, right, should follow a specific structure where it must be a number and not an alphabet and other stuff. But we haven't gotten to that point yet, right? So at this point, what we can always do is we can only control what we can with what we've learned so far, which is what using conditionals, right? There are other better ways that we can solve this problem, like regex. So we can use regex, or we could even use we have even gotten to handling of errors. So at this point, what the best thing that we can do is to just put the else statement and let them know that they've typed in a wrong number. So probably let's change it to invalid gender choice. So what we could do is something like this, right? We can pass in the appropriate message. This is the best that we can do with this information that we have. I don't want to go outside the scope of what we've covered so far, right? That's but the other way that we can get that fixed. All right, so Mr. Barry, please unmute and shoot. Sorry about that. All right, Mr. Barry.
Okay, I wanted asking. I don't come forget my question now. Okay, I want to ask you, sir, this INT, that stuff you wrote INT before the input. I don't really understand that stuff. But like the first time I'm seeing this, sir.
Okay, that's because we're not in our previous class, right? So what we did there is typecasting, right? So we converted from one data type to another data type. That's basically what we did. If you watch our previous our previous class, then you will probably understand that better. So we just typecasted them. So we converted from one type to another type.
Okay, that's
So
from letters to
from
numbers.
string, yes, from string to actual numbers, yes, to actual integer numbers, yes. That's
Okay,
basically
sir.
what we do, yeah. But I recommend that you watch that video, right? It will make a lot of sense if you
Okay,
watch
sir.
it. So, yeah. Any other question before we wrap it up? Any other question? Any other question? All right. So the silence be no other question. Please, I want to believe that Mr. Christian Uton is on this call and is actively on this call. Please, Mr. Christian, are you on this call?
Yes, yes, yes.
Christian, please, are you active on this call, please?
Yes, I am.
All right, because at some point, at some point when I was kicked out of that class, what Zoom does is that you just randomly pick someone and then hand them host, right, of the meeting. So at this point, you are the host of this meeting, right? So it means that you can kick me out and you can kick any other person out. So with all due respect, sir, do the needful. Right, do the needful, right? So okay, so basically that's for today's class. Okay. Mazi, your hand is up. That's Mazi, okay.
Yeah,
So
good afternoon. Yeah, good
okay,
afternoon. So regarding
that's
this, the gender aspect of it, I don't know if you talk like if we are supposed to mention something like the dot upper and dot lower this thing so that to be able to catch this thing like when they
yeah,
enter and it's saying invalid gender type.
yeah, that dots upper and dot lower, it's like it's outside the scope of this class. That's why I didn't want to bring it in. So
Okay,
yeah,
that's fine.
those are string methods. Yeah, so those are string methods. So and we haven't gotten there yet. Right, but I like the fact that most of us have already explored and gone that far. It's a beautiful thing, right? But for the purpose of other people, I cannot go that far, right, at this point. So that's why the best way that we could have handled that is what I've done so far, right? That's the possible or the safest way that I could have handled this with what we've learned so far, right? Just within the concept that we've learned so far.
Okay, that's good because I checked the curriculum. I don't know, maybe like it's we are going to talk about it later. That's why I asked about it.
That's true.
Yeah, I will bring it in. I'll bring it in. The curriculum says we're still working on that curriculum. If not is
Okay, thank you.
yeah. So I think someone hands is up. Okay, so Mr. Christian, if you haven't seen it, there's no problem. What you simply just do once we end the call is once we are done with the meeting is for you to end the call for all. But you haven't seen how to transfer the host. But then to transfer host, what you simply do is if you write if you are joining this call, where is it? Oh, he has gone. Okay, so I think he has resolved that. Okay, no problem. All right. Okay, so I don't know if there's any other question again before we wrap it up. Okay, so he has been able to resolve that. That's fine. That's fine. Right. Any okay, when is the first task? Well, the first task will come in this week. Trust me, the first task will come in, and that will be promotional task, and you are not expected to submit it on the group, right? So you submit it on LMS. So directly on LMS, that tax will come. Right, that tax will come. So, all right. So I don't think there's any other question again. Any other question pertaining to this class?